should be registered and must be within 3 days so that we are also able to monitor the progress of all these matters. So in the clusters, they'll have their database, but I will also have a database operating from matters. Then the chief prosecutor delegated must interview the witnesses in these cases prior to the enrollment of these matters, especially in cases involving accomplice witnesses and single witnesses. Legible consultation notes must be filed in the B section of the docket. So before you enroll any of these matters, consultation with the witnesses, and this was to deal with the matter of cases being withdrawn. So one of the complaints is that matters are enrolled and then cases are withdrawn. But this was as a result of you only really consult with the witness when you're ready to go for trial. So to try and eradicate that with these type of matters, we then requested that before you even enroll, speak to your witnesses. That was to deal with the withdrawal issues then. Then in respect of pending cases, the chief prosecutor or delegated prosecutor must interview the witnesses before a decision is made to transfer the matter to the regional or high courts. Legible consultation notes must be filed in the B section of the docket. This was to deal with 2 issues. The one issue is the delay of the matter being placed on the roll for trial. So it was 2-pronged to deal with those 2 in that regard. So we also don't have withdrawal of these matters. And then the decision to decline to prosecute a person and rather use such a person as an accomplice witness in terms of Section 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 must be made in consultation with the chief prosecutor and or DDP. That would be the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. The provisions of Section 204 should only be used in exceptional circumstances where it is in the interest of justice to do so. See in this regard Section D, Part 4 of the NPA Policy Directives, Section 204 witnesses. So this was to now deal with the issues that had been raised regarding this, where we were just saying before you decide on having a witness be a Section 204 witness, there are certain things that the Prosecution Policy Directive has put into place as safeguards, and they must have regard to those. Those are contained in the policy directives. And then the chief deputy directors of public prosecutions must ensure that a database of these politically related cases is maintained for the cluster or units, and that by the 10th of each month, one update for the whole cluster or units or offices is forwarded to the Strategy and Operations Office, attention of Mr. Sunil Prithipaul and Ms. Imel. Again, this was just for the governance issue so that we maintain the progress and we can monitor these cases as they are on the courts. No politically related case may be withdrawn without detailed and cogent written notes and reasons in the C section of the docket or DPP office file. Again, this was so that we monitor the withdrawals and the reasons that were provided for the cases that are being withdrawn by the prosecutors. And then the last one, advocate slippery, and where there is a doubt in regards to a decision, he can be contacted for assistance. That was my directive, Commissioners.
And if we then go to Annexure C, it appears at page 210. And do you recognize this document?
I recognize it, Council.
Can I take you to page 252, the foot of page 252, and will you confirm it? At the bottom of page 252. over
Yes,
to
Chairperson,
253.
that is how I received it.
And would you just give that covering email?
This is dated the 27th of August, 2019. It was addressed to myself at that time, being Elaine Zungu. It is from Brigadier Dumsane Kumalo. This is now General Kumalo, NDPP and National Commissioner.
And can you describe what this document, Annexure C, that starts at page 210 is?
Okay, this was a progress report dated August 2019, and this was a progress report regarding the cases for investigation and prosecution. And if I remember, it's dated 23 August 2019. This had been presented at the meeting of 23 August 2019. We had then requested for copies of these Office of the Advocate Batoy.
Thank you. Can I ask you to go down to page 218, where matters of concern are listed? Sorry, before you get to page 218, who did the presentation?
General Kumalo would do the presentation.
Thank you. And then if you go down to 218.
I'm there, Council.
And a list of matters of concern appears on page 218. Is there anything you would comment on in relation to this list?
Council, there's not except for the fact that it was just being reiterated, because if you read the paragraph above the matters, it's just that it's just to highlight that those matters were directed against individuals on top, like politicians and tenderpreneurs, who are mostly not directly involved in the commission, but the fact was that were involved in those matters, that were part of the conspiracy or planning. So I think the concern is, when you read that, it is these matters are like our 204 witnesses. Remember the challenge that had been raised, but in this matter.
Thank you. And then there are more matters of concern over the page on 219. Can you look at 219? Is there anything you want to comment in relation to those matters of concern raised at the in the presentation by General Kumalo?
Thank you, Council. Again, remember this is a meeting on the 23rd of August. And again, the issue of lack of dedicated prosecutors has contributed. Again, there was the issue of the coordination that was coming out again, despite the directive of 3 of 2019, there were still concerns raised regarding the coordination, the delayed decisions whether to prosecute or not, also negatively affecting the turnaround time, the questionable decisions to withdraw the cases or charges against some individuals without valid reason, endorsement, and queries in the docket, the delaying of trial of an accused who is pleading guilty, which leads to accused persons to be influenced otherwise and change their plea of guilty. The trial-ready cases being postponed for a longer period due to the unavailability of dedicated prosecutors and prosecutors on single witness cases, dying declaration, child witness, and circumstantial evidence, the repetitive granting of bail to accused who are already.
Do you have comments on these matters of concern raised by General Kumalo or Brigadier Kumalo at the time?
You know, when one looks at these concerns or matters of concerns as they've been labeled on page 219, you can see it. They were clearly coming from the part the task team saying, these are the concerns that we've got. These are the concerns that we have regarding these matters. And we needed to obviously provide, it is coordination. You know, when you read all of this, it's about coordination that was in, that was really a problem. Because if you look at these concerns, and if one goes back to the different meetings that we had during case progress or any meetings, these are the similar concerns that have been raised. Then you go back to the letter of 24 May 2019. Again, these are the concerns that were there. And then I go back to the issue of the prosecutors had made decisions and then decisions, but I think the team still had concerns even regarding those decisions that had been made by the prosecutors, which then my office decided, let me get a team to review the decisions and to determine whether or not the decisions taken were in fact justiciable or not. And we found that they were in fact correct decisions.
So, am I correct then that some of it is legitimate matters of concern, others you would say were concerns that were investigated and proved not to be justified?
I would say were concern. It's two things that we need to do. There were concerns that, to me, were concerns that needed to be attended to. The dedicated prosecutors, because it was it kept coming up and again. It kept coming up and again. But you see here, it hasn't been elaborated on, like how we would elaborate when we have a meeting. So it was just point. So as I can say, lack of dedicated prosecutors, what they wanted versus provided to them, they were still not happy with what we had provided. And they listed their concerns regarding that. And that is the reason why at the end it was decided that the organized crime units be the dedicated capacity. The delayed decisions, whether to prosecute or not, I would say yes, sometimes one may view a decision as being delayed, but when you go into it, people relevant for them to be able to determine, do I continue with a prosecution in this matter? Do I enroll the matter? So my understanding is that they may find it as a delayed decision. I would find it not as being a delayed decision. So the views are different depending on which, are you part of the prosecution or you're part of the SAPS. But mine go back into the dockets and look at what is continuing in the docket. So the questionable decisions, I've addressed that. We went back and we did our review. So we were fine with it. The reluctance to prosecute, again, one has to determine, it's a prosecutorial decision. You know, so some of them I didn't believe that from our perspective, but obviously it was clear that where they will sit together, because remember in the lower courts they don't sit with the investigating officer. You direct the investigations in the investigating diary. When you've got the units do the prosecutor guided investigations, which follow a different methodology, but it doesn't stop any prosecutor. I think that is what task team wanted that sort of scenario to apply. Thank you.
Thank you. If we can then go to the next annexure, Annexure D, which was a plan and strategy document presented at the 23rd. That appears at page 223. And again, just to track when you received this document, if we can go to page 252.
Sorry.
If we scroll, sorry. Yes. Sorry, can we just scroll a little bit further up so that we can get the date? And there you'll see an email that you, in fact, emailed our way at head office, copying a series of other addressees, where you attached a presentation that was done on August, at the meeting on the 23rd of August. Is what was attached the presentation that we see at 223?
I'd like to correct just one thing. Maybe my correspondence needed a bit of just a correction, one correction, because that's the exhibits dated, the one as Annexure C. It says the meeting of 23 August 2019, Annexure C.
That's a report, as I understand it, from that meeting.
That's a report at that meeting that was presented at August. It's just, it was presented at that meeting. Then, from this report, it leads to Annexure D. So, if the presentation was done, and then this report was then presented.
Can I just put to you that I think it's the other presentation is Annexure D. It's sort of in the form of a presentation, and the report is Annexure C. But I may be wrong.
No, Chairperson. I think I would have the Annexure C was presented at the meeting of 23 August 20, and it's still live. You can see it still indicates the challenges. Then from that meeting, remember this meeting is now at, I think it was the National Commissioner who was there at that meeting of 23 August. It led at that meeting, they then said, you need to go back as the task team and as NPA. You sit down and you come up with an integrated strategy. So this was not presented at that meeting, the meeting of 23 August. Really, my apologies for that. So we went back, we sat down with the task team. We had to sit down. The directive was, you sit down and you come back with an integrated strategy. So we don't want NPA having their own documents. We don't want the task team having their own documents. We want of the teams. And that is when we went back with the team. We then agreed that we'd have the OCC as the dedicated capacity, and OCC then became the dedicated capacity. This was as a result of the meeting of 23 August 2019. And this document was then developed between the task team and my office.
And this on screen at page 224, that sets out the purpose of the document.
That sets out the purpose.
And maybe if you could read that into the record.
Sorry, Council, maybe just to also indicate, if you look at on the documents, it's got the emblem for the NPA and the emblem for to show that it was now joint. Okay, this strategy is to provide an integrated framework within the JCPS cluster led by the South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority in the detection, investigation, and prosecution of politically related cases in order to mitigate all the risk factors associated with investigation in KwaZulu-Natal province.
And as you've just emphasized, this was a coordinated plan put together not by task team alone, but by task team in coordination with NPA.
That is correct, Council.
And you say this was pursuant to a meeting of 19. And
That is pursuant to that.
when was the presentation itself made? This one now. The joint presentation.
Chairperson, I think that is when we then had the meeting of 5 August. It would have been then presented to the that meeting of 5 August 2019, because this is 23 August, then August 2019. So in
September.
between
Do you mean September?
September. August, September.
September, all right. Thank you, DPP.
Thank you, Chair. There are so many dates.
It's by going to Annexure E, which is a letter, and if we go down a bit, of Justice and Correctional Services and General of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, which is a slightly different department. But it refers to the bilateral with the NDPP on the 5th of August 2019. Who were the bilateral parties? In
that meeting, the bilaterals would have been the Department of Constitution of Justice and Constitutional Development, but I note that the minister signed it as the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. That's how it's written there. So that was one. The African Police Services was also there at that meeting.
Thank you. Chair, would this be a convenient time to take the break?
Definitely. Let us, or page for the record, Annexure E is at page 243. Yes. Let us adjourn and resume at 11. My co-commissioner doesn't like to lose a minute of the break. Let us resume at 11:17. Yes, Mr. Shaskelson.
Thank you, Chair. Advocate Harrison, if we can just go back to page 243 where we were before the break.
Yes, Council. I am there.
I'm just waiting for it to come up on screen.
Wow.
And there you will see that in the minister's letter, he refers to the recommendation about a single court for the PKTT matters, and we've discussed that already. In his second last paragraph, he says, I'm also in engagement with correctional services to find a correctional facility where all inmates who are on trial for the above-mentioned offence can be housed. Did this ever happen?
Chair, Commissioners, I don't think this eventually was successful, because my recollection of what's going on is that they are housed in prisons nearby where their trials are proceeding. Correctional facility that was ever found for just them specifically.
Thank you. And of course, if the single court idea was not implemented, then it seems that it would not make sense to have a single correctional services facility servicing courts scattered across the province.
Yes, that would be correct, because the court would then, yeah, that would be correct.
To your statement, and paragraph 23, and you've been describing attempts to provide better coordination around political killings. Did those attempts have a positive result?
Commissioners, that is correct. The documents which we have just referred to as Annexure D, and once we had dedicated capacity from the organized crime component, which is now responding to the political task team, it seemed everything was then put into place. We're not saying there weren't any further challenges that may have been found, but that was the coordination that yielded the results that were being requested for.
Start seeing results from the coordinated strategy?
I would like to refer to in paragraph 23, and maybe can I just read out what paragraph 23 says, Council? Thank you. The interventions discussed in my letter were introduced in 2019. Prior to COVID, increased efficiencies were already visible. COVID then interrupted matters in 2020. But by 2021, it was clear that the improved content of these matters was producing speedier enrollment and finalization of political murder trials.
Can I ask, you talk about by 2021, was that state of affairs sustained going forward through to 2024?
It was sustained.
And in terms of the practicalities and the efficiencies of the system that you had in place, did you see any need for the disestablishment of the task team and the disestablishment of the system that you had in place?
Council, I did not see any need for it.
Can I take you then to paragraph 25, where you say that the most important innovation that improved coordination was a single dedicated unit within the KZN NPA with dedicated capacity to handle all political killings case investigation. Can you explain to the Commission what prosecutor-guided investigation is, and maybe amplify what you say from paragraph 26 onwards.
Prosecutor-guided investigations is a methodology that is used it's used within the space of the National Prosecuting Authority working. Here it's basically where it is used mainly in the units because they have a particular methodology which they use regarding, and it's practical for them as well. So the police and the prosecutors sit down together, they go through the case, they guide if there are investigations that are outstanding. The investigations are then guided, but you sit down together in a room and you discuss the dockets, and you are all in agreement with regards to the investigations that still need to be conducted. The document that can be kept, and in this instance of PGI, there's a specific document that by the prosecutor and the investigator, which is then to show I am in agreement and we agree that this is what needs to be done and by which date. So there will be actions and then they give a date when an action needs to be done. So that when you come back for the next case progress meeting on that specific matter, your guiding documents.
And how did PGI, or maybe if I can refer you to paragraph 27 and 28, can you explain to the Commission how PGI operated within the context of the organised crime component in the PKTT?
Thank you, Chair. Upon an engagement with the deputy who was in charge of this portfolio, he has explained it, and we've seen it also happen. When a case is first brought by the political task team, what happens is that they have a case progress meeting. At this case progress meeting, they also introduce or present cases which are new, so new cases on their database. They will present these cases to that, in that case progress, they will guide the investigation at that meeting. Once the investigation is about, let's say, 80% to 90% brought to the offices of the organized crime component, it is registered in that office. It is then allocated to a prosecutor who then starts dealing with the talking about to finalize whatever investigations needs to be finalized. And that is how they began working, and also just so that the investigations gets fast-tracked. And the good system about PGI, it holds you really accountable, because you sat there at the meeting and you said, I could do a specific action by a specific. So this is the good system, the methodology about PGI.
And can I take you to paragraph 28, where you discuss some of the particular advantages in this PGI context of the facilities at the disposal of the PKTT team?
Thank you, Council. So after registration, the peruses the docket and thereafter meets with the investigating officer, and they discuss the remaining investigation which needs to be conducted. This is also noted and agreed upon. As the PKTT has a multidisciplinary team, the investigations can be finalized at a faster rate. For example, ballistics, cell phone analysis, tracking of suspects and or accused, and profiling same. Council, can I just maybe elaborate on that as to Annexure D, the functionaries that I'm talking about? That is page 223, Commissioners.
Maybe before you take us there, let's just confirm that date that you were referring to. So remember, you said Annexure D came after Annexure C. So just to confirm that on page 225, so that bullet point confirms an earlier briefing, which suggests then that this document came after that earlier briefing.
Yes.
right? And then you can move on to the point you wanted to make.
Now, this, if you look at Annexure D, page 223, I'm going to take you to, Chairperson, this copy is not, maybe, I don't know if they can put it there on the,
So only the cover page.
I do
That is
have a
not
clearer
all that
copy.
legible, and also the top parts, the headings. If you remember the headings, you can just tell us what they are. Oh, sorry.
Page 8.
Gosh.
Page 8 of that document, it talks to investigation.
Chair, that's 230.
229.
Yes, page 230.
230. Yeah. What should we do, Mr. Chancellor?
Advocate Harrison was going to take us through this page, if it's possible for her to read it.
I will read it out, Chairperson. Sorry? I will read it out so that there's an understanding. On my paragraph 20, I'm now responding to paragraph 28, where I talk about, as the PKTT had a multidisciplinary team, the investigations could be finalized at a faster rate. And if you look at page 8 of Annexure D, which is now on page 230, at the bottom of that page, Chair, Commissioners, it gives you the function from SAPS. The first, and those are the many at the
Are
one.
you referring to the 8 blocks right at the
Yes, yes. Those were the functionaries. Remember, this is our documents now that we've developed so that we can work and
bottom?
address all the issues.
The first one is forensic something.
Forensic team.
And the next one, intelligence, I think.
Team. Combat team.
Combat. All data analysis something.
Call data analysis team.
My eyesight is not that bad. And digital something.
Analysis team.
And
6 team.
operational what?
Analysis team. And then the last one is the operations support team.
Okay.
Would it be possible for you to explain what these teams mean? I mean, what different teams do all in one overarching team?
Chairperson, I will request that this specific, these are functionaries that fell there. I do not know all of them, but the issue of like the call data analyst team, that would be important for our cell phone record analysis. Our ballistics team, that would assist reports. Intelligence team would be for the tracing of suspects and accused. I would really leave this because this, if you look at it, that was for, that came with the task team, the PKTT. My team is described on page 9 of that, which is page 230 of the documents before us.
Not 230, not 231.
Sorry, 230 of the document.
231.
231.
for page 9.
231, sorry, Chair, 231, which is the next page.
Yeah.
That explains the prosecution team that we were coming with to respond to the task team.
So I see at the top, it's Major General S.D. Kumalo and alongside each other at the same level.
Yes, Chairperson.
And can you just speak to Advocate Govender's role?
May we make this request, please? Can we be given better copies of?
Not immediately after, Chair, but we will source them.
Yes.
Absolutely, Chair. We will get legible copies.
This. Heading the portfolio.
Thank you. And then can you describe the rest of your team?
The rest of my team was made up as follows. Remember, Advocate Govender is now the dedicated capacity. So she is now responding with her prosecutors to general, to the PKT team. Then it had been agreed upon that any other back to the clusters being the chief prosecutors, and they have their own structure within the clusters. So that's how we would operate. But the dedicated capacity was given to the organized crime component. And that is explained, our prosecutorial role is explained, it's contained there on page 231. Just the structure going down.
And if we go back to your statement and the point that you made that you had these different, almost specialized capacities within the task team, explain to the Commission how that helped us. Can you contrast that with a situation where that specialized capacity in one place doesn't exist, and what happens when the specialized capacity is not in one place?
Okay. When you've got specialized and dedicated capacity, then turnaround times are faster. The work is dedicated. And that was one of our concerns, was the functionaries. I think paragraph 29, Council, if you look at it, I explained it very well in that paragraph.
Maybe if you can read paragraph 29.
Since the de-establishment letter of 31 December 2024, Advocate Gaba, who is the DDP, has reported that the PKTT no longer has all these functionaries, and this is affecting their investigation turnaround times, resulting in the decisions now being delayed. This is a concern because when the whole process of requesting for dedicated capacity was made, the PKTT and the minister had complained that the prosecutors were taking too long to making decisions, and this had then been corrected. Now the functionaries are taking regards to investigations.
So now, with functionaries away, how do you get a ballistics test done or a cell phone analysis done?
It will go back to the usual manner in which we've been dealing in, wherein we'll just have to wait until the ballistic report is produced. Whereas while we were working with the when the functionaries, all the functionaries are in place, when the exhibits, how they were working, is that when the exhibit is recovered, the normal process of ensuring that it's allocated the SAP 13 number, taken immediately for ballistics. Now it means because the functionaries are not there for those who have been charged of that, it means it has to wait for someone else be booked into the SAP 13. Then someone else will have to come at a later stage to book it out of the SAP 13, then taken to the ballistic unit, then wait for the time when at ballistics. Whereas if we had this coordination, you've got someone specifically allocated to look after that function.
Advocate Harrison, if I may, this concern that you register now, that since the functionaries are no longer available and it's the impact of prosecuting these matters, that's now that the dockets have been returned. Does it follow? Have been returned to KZN or to the PKTT, let me say?
This impact started before the document. So what Advocate Gaba reported was that there were some functionaries. So after this whole letter now that was in the media, and he's in consultation with General Kumalo, is that it also was that the PKTT was no longer having all the functionaries that had been there before this de-establishment later. So some of them had now been removed.
Evidence that we've heard, the instruction to disband was not implemented. Other than the removal, the instruction to remove the dockets. That's what I'm trying to probe, that you would have had that problem, even though the instruction was not given effect to.
I think, Commissioner, that will be testified on more by I received from Advocate Gaba, who works closely with General Kumalo, to say this is the impact that we are now having, that we do not have all the functionaries within the. So our matters are going to be taking a little bit longer.
If we can just develop that theme and go to your paragraph 30, where you talk about to the 22 May letter from General Mkhwanazi about the removal of the dockets. Can you explain to the Commission what you did and what was reported to you?
Okay. After the correspondence of 22 May 2025, approached General Gaba regarding these cases, he advised that all PKTT cases which were not in court had been taken from them and that the unit was left with the court-going cases only. This meant that there was no prosecutorial guidance on investigation. Effectively, this meant that the prosecutors were dealing only with the PKTT cases that were on the court roll.
Just ask you to explain that in some detail. If I understand, the whole model of prosecutor-guided investigation presupposes that the docket is essentially under the control of the prosecutor in some respect. The docket, or the investigating officer and the prosecutor work in coordination, and the investigating officer has the docket. Nod at your head.
Yes, that is correct, because remember the docket is the property of the SAPS.
Of the SAPS, not the NPA. But of course, if the investigating officer no longer has the docket, that model can't work.
It means there's no investigations that can continue, especially regarding the matters that were on the court roll, but maybe there's still been some investigations that were still required to be finalized. Because you must remember with these matters, it's not that a matter will always be a decision matter. In some matters, there are straight arrests. Therefore, the matter gets enrolled and then the investigation takes place. Although the preferred methodology is to investigate and then arrest. But we did have cases which were on the court roll, that were outstanding. For example, I would say, like, let's say a ballistic report is outstanding, or a photograph album is outstanding, but the evidence implicating a accused to the commission of the offense is there, all of it. It's just this little evidence just that is outstanding, or something, but most of those were on the court roll.
Well, maybe with respect to paragraph 31. And for the benefit of those of us who are not familiar with the sort of serial numbers of documents, can you also explain in that context what a J50 is?
A J50 is a warrant of arrest. That's basically what it is, and straight of arrest of this person. And basically, what then happened is I was further informed that there had also been dockets removed, which had J50 warrants issued, but which had not yet been executed. So in other words, what was left here was simply for accused to, for the police to go and execute the J50. That was all that was outstanding. Have the matter enrolled and the case be, and we take the matter forward. So some of them the dockets had been removed, meaning that they couldn't execute. We had to wait until the docket comes back before the J50 could be executed.
And then in paragraph 32, you confirm that indeed happened?
Yes, after the return of the dockets from Pretoria, a J50 was executed on one of the PKT matters, and the matters was enrolled. If my memory serves me correct, Council, about 2 weeks, one of these matters put back on the court roll. I just can't remember the court dates, unfortunately. I didn't prepare for
time that you did not have access to the dockets.
That's the duration of the time. I just didn't get the exact dates when we started to get back. Remember, they would have been returned back to SAPS. From there, they would have then, or to the task team, or I don't know. Then from there, they would be returned. I've had some time lost. And why I say this is, I want to bring to the attention the letter of the Minister, where one of the things that he was complaining about was the delays in regards to these matters. Now, because of the dockets being taken away, exactly what Mr. Ele was talking about at that time, we see it now happening during this time. So we cannot be held responsible for this delay now, because we are not responsible for these dockets.
In response to Commissioner Baloyi's question, her last question, you said that some of the members of some of the teams within this coordinated or integrated team had since the integrated or coordinated process is back in force. Does this mean those team members that had left are back or not yet?
Chairperson, I'm not yet sure about whether all of them are back. I cannot respond to that. I didn't query that, whether, and let me just say, I didn't query whether everyone is back. I think for me at this stage was, we need to get the work going. We've lost time now in these matters, and we owe certain people or victims responses to these matters. Let's get the matters going. Thank you, Chair.
If I can just put some dates to you. The evidence has been that the dockets were taken to Pretoria in March and the 22nd of April, and that they were returned on the 18th of August. So it would have been 3 to 4 months that your system was interrupted.
That is correct, Council.
If I may, and in the time that the dockets were removed, there had been engagement from head office with your team of prosecutors in respect of the matters that they were involved with.
Chairperson, Commissioner, sorry, when you say head office, our head office or SAPS?
No, I'm saying with your prosecution team that had been part of this integrated team.
Yes.
The dockets are now at head office, SAPS head office, sorry.
Okay.
At SAPS head office. There was nothing.
There was nothing. Commissioner, there was no national office with the dedicated capacity within my unit, within my office.
Advocate Harrison, you previously said that no one consulted with you the apparent decision to disestablish the task team. What would your position been if anyone had consulted you prior to taking such a decision, or for your views on whether such a decision should be?
You know, after everything is said and done, and everything that went into providing the coordinated approach and providing this coordinated team, I would have strongly motivated against the de-establishment. If I had been approached for a comment, I would have, because it showed that it was working. At that time, it was very evident that the team was working well, and to de-establish it would both be counterproductive and also destructive of the vast amounts of work that had gone into shaping the system and the structures that were now working well.
And can you just repeat for us what structures were the structures that, in your view, were
coordinated approach that was now between the PKTT and the dedicated capacity that was there. You can see even today, they are still working well and they continue to work well.
In paragraph, the last paragraph rather, of Annexure MK9, I know you probably do not have that in front of you. That's the letter by Minister dated 31 December 2024, addressed to the National Commissioner of Police, General Masemula. In the last paragraph of that letter, the Minister says, "My observation is that the further existence of the PKTT is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa." So responses you gave just now in response to Advocate Chaskalstein, you do not agree with this?
I do not agree with that, Commissioner.
And as you sit here today in
I'm
this...
sorry, did I give the page number? Did I give the page number? Annexure MK9 starts at page, and what I read is at page 186. Thank you, Mr. Chaskalstein.
And Advocate Harrison, as you sit here today, has anyone given you any formal indication of what the status of...
Council, I still do not know it on the premise that there has been no de-establishment of the task team.
Thank you, Advocate Harrison. I don't have further questions well, for you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure if the commissioners would like to put questions to you.
Just one for me. Advocate Harrison, the letter the chairperson is referring to is on the screen. The last two paragraphs, and the heading is 3, Political Killings Task Team. And you will see from that letter that the minister says he has made certain observations and he has decided, or rather directs, that the task team be established immediately. Now, assume for a moment that it was competent for the minister to disband the task team. Would you have expected that be done immediately, or what would have been your expectation, knowing what you know about the task team and its work?
In my opinion, opinion, Commission is working. And if that is what is intended, you know, when you look up the word immediately, it's today, pack up your bags and go. You can't do that. We are victim-centered as NPA. We would have probably requested for some time a continuation, because we've invested even not only in, it's not the victims, but our witnesses. We develop a rapport with our witnesses, who develop a rapport with regards to investigators, even bringing them to the prosecutor for consultation or for trial purposes. Now, when you say get up and go today, it's you leave everything. The better process was, let's sit down, which will work for the benefit of ensuring that the interests of justice are always maintained, and we look after our victims and we look after our witnesses.
So is it fair to say you would have expected a proper winding down process that takes into account victims, ongoing cases, and ongoing investigations on the roll?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Thank you, DPP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
For the record, Mr. Shaskalsin, it has been reported to us that the issue of General Khumalo appearing in court has been resolved with regard to his appearance before us at 9:30 on Monday.
Yes, Chair, I have, I have consulted with both the prosecutor and his legal team, and I understand that it has been resolved.
That is the position. Thank you very much. Let us adjourn and on Monday. Let's adjourn.